Hey, how's it going? We're live. Welcome. It's Monday, September 18th at 12:30 Arizona time. This is episode 73 of the Ask Dr. Khan show. I'm Dr. Peter Khan. Welcome to my show. In this show, we give you information that's going to help you solve your health puzzle. And in case you didn't know, I'm a functional medicine practitioner and functional neurologist in Gilbert, Arizona. And my practice focuses on people who have been through the gamut. You have fatigue, energy issue, digestion problem, chronic health condition that you already been to the medical practitioners, given medication, it didn't help. You go to a specialty clinic like Mayo Clinic, they don't have an answer for you. Then you swing all the way to the other side, trying some natural solution like supplements and so forth, still not getting better. That's how our clients usually find us, through YouTube, Facebook, on the internet. And most people, they just so glad that they finally have some answers that make sense, that someone is there that they're able to explain things to them in English and be able to help them. So I'm so glad you're here. If this is your first time watching, please give me a thumbs up for first timers. All right, and then how about if you've been following us for a long time, please give me some hearts for repeat watchers, for followers. Great, awesome. So we're also on Instagram as well. Our handle at Instagram is Ask Dr. Khan, and then on Facebook you can find us at Hope Integrative Wellness. Also on YouTube is Peter Khan DC. So we're all over the place. We also have a website where this show is archived. You can watch past episodes. You should go there and watch the past episode because we get a lot of people who gives very positive feedback. Now today's show, it's going to be very special. We're going to talk about my favorite topic or my favorite organ, which is the brain. And we live our life through our brain. Our experiences and our emotions and our cognition and our hopes and aspirations, everything is hinged on your brain function. Unfortunately, Alzheimer's, dementia, Parkinson, and these neurodegenerative disorders, and not to even mention people who have those diseases, you may be young and already feeling the signs of these things. You have brain fog. You feel like your memory is not as good. It's already declining even though you're in your 30s and 40s. You may have word loss. You can't spit out the words. You know what you want to say, but you just can't find the words. You walk into a room, you forget why you walk in there in the first place. You have difficulty concentrating. You have lethargy. Your motivation is low. It's hard for you to get up in the morning. You may have depression, anxiety. I mean, all these issues, it's all related to the brain. And brain actually affects hormonal function as well. Brain affects thyroid function, affects adrenal hormone function. So we want to have a healthy brain, okay? Now, your brain is very sensitive. It weighs about 3% of your body weight, but use up 30% of your body's caloric energy. So it's very metabolically active, and because it's metabolic active, it's also very sensitive to damage, energy fluctuations, inflammations. So there are things that you can do. So this episode, we're going to talk about brain boosters, okay? We're going to talk about 7 things that can damage your brain and lead to early neurodegeneration. Neurodegeneration means exactly what it is. Your brain is degenerating. It's like aging of the brain, but aging before its time, right? So there's a difference between, I'm just getting old, which is complete BS, right? You have people that you know, put a thumbs up if you know people who are older than you that have better brain function than you. Like I bet you all know people who are older, but they're wise, they're clear, they're cogent, and they're functioning really well at a very high level. Just think of Warren Buffett, right? He's in his 80s, I think. Richard Branson, people like Clint Eastwood. These are people who are, in their 70s and 80s that have very good brain function and continue to work at a very high level and contribute to society. So if it's all age, then everybody would just decline. But that's not true. It's just that Alzheimer's and dementia is becoming an epidemic. It's an increasing epidemic. And this increase is greater than the rise of the baby boomers, right? There's more people getting Alzheimer's dementia than there are people entering the outer ages. So this problem with neurodegeneration has more to do with the damage that's accumulated in the brain. And this damage starts at a very young age, right? We actually are born with the most amount of brain cells on the day that we're born. And every day, since the day that you were born, you are losing brain cells. It's just a natural process. Now, if you say, well, if we're losing brain cells, aren't we supposed to be getting stupider? Well, that's not true, right? Because baby at a very young age, like 1 month old, 6 month old, I mean, are they as functional as someone who's like in their 20s? Obviously not, right? Because baby at 6 month old or 1 month old can't even walk. They can't do anything. They're not stupid, but they're certainly not very functional, even though they have the most brain cells at that point in time. The reason is because as you age, your body lay down these neural pathways. So the old adage, you use it, you get stronger. You don't use it, you lose it. Your body lays down these pathways, due to practice, due to school, due to education and conditioning, that you start to be able to do these different tasks like reading, writing, exercise, walking, and things like that. But babies can't do it because even though they have all the brain cells, the brain is not connected. So it's all about synapses. So what we know in neuroscience is that even though as we age, we lose more and more brain cells, your body has the ability to, through neuroplasticity, to lay down more pathways and connect different areas of the brain and lay down stronger connections. And that's what's allowing you to have good function even though you age and you lose more brain cells. So it's all about maintaining brain function. Now, certainly you don't want to lose brain cells, and you also want to increase plasticity, laying down more pathway. And that's by keeping the brain healthy. So I want to talk about brain boosters, 7 things that can damage and 7 things that can boost, that can help you reverse symptoms of brain fog, memory issues, keep you more mentally sharp. So the word's right at the tip of your mouth, you can just spit it out, you'll be able to handle stress and not feel like you're going to fall apart. You have the energy to do things. That is so important. I'm going to tell you, one of the top 3 complaints in my office with clients, people complain of fatigue, people complain of not able to lose weight, people complain of brain fog, and really brain fog is just a sign of brain not functioning in its optimum. So let's talk about the 7 things that can help and the 7 things that can damage it. So this is basically a substitution list, a swap. So I made it easy for you. Okay, so I listed out 7 things that help, or these are the damaging sides. Let me get new markers. So damage. We have 7 things that damage, and then we have 7 things that boosts. Okay? So the things that damage the brain, number 1, sugar. And this is refined sugar, right? Processed sugar. So these are foods that either damage or boost. So you want to swap out foods on this side for foods on this side. Made it really simple for you. So you don't just, you tell me to cut out stuff. What do I eat? I don't know what to substitute with. I'm going to give you some substitution. Well, basically what happens when you eat refined sugar, what you're doing is you're increasing insulin spike. And that causes insulin resistance, which leads to diabetes. And diabetes creates massive amount of inflammation and damage, especially to neurological tissue like nerve cells and brain cells. That's why people with diabetes end up with neuropathy, ends up with Alzheimer's disease, ends up with heart disease, kidney failure, retinopathy, which is damage of the retina, blindness basically, and gangrene. So diabetes is one of the most damaging things. So don't think like, well, I have diabetes, I'm on blood pressure, diabetic medication. That doesn't help it. That doesn't get you out of the woods. That just makes your blood sugar looks temporarily better. But if you keep eating sugar, this sugar is sugar from your food, then you're still going to create a problem. The medication is just a Band-Aid. Don't use medication medication is a Band-Aid, so I can't say don't use medication because that's what it is. But it's okay to have a Band-Aid, but just don't mistake the Band-Aid as a cure for your problem. You got to take personal responsibility. You got to take care of yourself. And the way you take care of yourself by first listening and learning, and then you got to implement what you learn, right? So I'm going to make it super easy for you to implement. So sugar in the refined form. Now, sugar is hiding in a lot of foods, right? Your barbecue sauce, your salad dressing, it's hiding everywhere. And sugar also is disguised in refined carbohydrates. So you want to cut out sugar of all types. And so what do you substitute it with? Well, people say fruits. Not necessarily, because if you eat too much fruit, guess what? Fruit also has sugar in the form of fructose. And fructose from fruit, if you have too much, can actually cause high uric acid, which can cause gout or pseudo-gout, joint pain. High fructose intake can also cause fatty liver. It can also cause insulin resistance as well. So we don't want to overeat the fruit. So what we want to substitute that with is actually vegetables. Like, are you kidding me? Substitute for vegetables? Well, that's exactly it. See, this is a framework. I'm not just giving you a item, but I'm also giving you a framework for how you can apply this so that you're not just tied to like one food choice. You got to know that sugar in its processed form, or even in fruit, if you have too much of it, leads to high blood sugar, insulin problem. And at the core, sugar is needed by the brain, right? You need brain processed glucose. It's a preferred source of energy, but you don't want to send glucose to your brain in the form of processed sugar. You want to get it naturally from fruit. And when you eat vegetables, you're going to get naturally occurring carbohydrates, because vegetables are basically your carbohydrate, but in a fiber form. And that fiber from the vegetable helps you with blood sugar stability. Okay? So next thing is fat. So we talk about sugar, now we're going to talk about fat. Now there are good fat and bad fat. So obviously the bad fat is your trans fat. So your trans fat basically is a poison. Harvard, basically 50 years ago when trans fat first came on the market, said that there's no safe levels for trans fat. Basically it's a poison. There's no minimum safe level. Any level is bad. This is by Harvard University back 50 years ago when trans fat first came out. But of course, people with money and trying to make a business out of it somehow pushed through it. And at the time, this cholesterol caused heart disease thing was all the rage. That was the theory, which we now it has been dispelled unequivocally by science that fat causes heart disease. No, it's bad fat causes heart disease. Good fat actually helps to reduce heart disease. So trans fat is what you want to sub out, and you want to use good fats. So the good fat will be coconut oil, which contains high amounts of saturated fat. So this is again where the old myth came in, right? So they say saturated fat is bad. So therefore don't eat bacon, don't eat eggs, and don't eat coconut oil because high in saturated fat, which is completely lame because now we know that it's not about saturated fat. It really has to do with processed fat. So if you eat fat in its natural state, like coconut oil, olive oil, which is monounsaturated, and you eat things like nuts and seeds, and even good fat from avocado, and even from eggs is fine, right? It's not going to hurt you, even from animal fat. If it's grass-fed, free-ranging, organic, then the fat from that particular food source will be just fine because it's natural. So sub out the trans fat. Now where's trans fat hiding? Well, it's going to be hiding again in a lot of your chips, right? Your not just chips, but also like condiments and things like that, like peanut butter, right? Unless you're using just straight up natural peanut butter, where the ingredient just says peanut. Usually, like your Jifs or those brand that market to kids usually have the most amount of trans fat. So when kids, as a developing child, need the most amount of healthy fat, because your brain is basically 60 to 70% fat. So your brain needs a lot of fat to actually grow and to become healthy. So at the time when the brain is most vulnerable, we're feeding the kids the worst things, like chips and French fries and things dipped in these horrible oils. So we gotta feed them the good fat. The next thing is the white foods. So really, it's your processed grains, right? This is typically, your bread and pasta, bagels, cookies, crackers. These things are white foods, food that's just white in color. Because why? Because they bleached it and it's just flour, it's just sugar. And these flours or carbs are in a very fine powdery form when they use modern milling methods to grind down the grains. They grind it into very fine powder, which makes it highly absorbable into the blood, which means that it jacks up your blood sugar very, very fast. So you want to avoid the white food and substitute it for, let me draw some arrows so you can see the substitution here. You want to substitute that out for your white foods with dark fruits. You said earlier, hey, didn't you say to cut out the fruits? I did. But if you are going to eat some fruit, you want to eat the dark fruits, right? Blueberry, raspberry, plums. So these dark color fruits and veggies really is what you want to substitute out these processed white food with, because the typical way Americans eat is sugary stuff, trans fat, white food like chips, tortilla chips, bread, pasta, cookie, crack, bagels, scones from Starbucks. I mean, these are all just white food. It's devoid of any antioxidant. So you got to switch to these vegetables and dark fruit with a lot of vibrant colors. That's going to give you that antioxidant that most Americans are missing. So you got to cut out the carbs, basically. The next section is condiments. A lot of your condiments, like your ketchup, your mustard, your salad dressings, barbecue sauce, soy sauce, these things just got gluten and different things hiding in there, MSG. It's just all processed. So avoid the condiments, but instead use herbs and spices. Natural herbs and spices, right? Things like basil, like ginger, like garlic in its natural form. So you buy the actual garlic and smash it up and do minced garlic. You buy the actual basil leaf and you put the basil leaf in your food. You buy the actual spice like turmeric and ginger. Buy the actual ginger root and slice it and put it in your food. The herbs and spices are so important because they contain tons of antioxidants and different phenols and fatty compounds that are actually cancer fighting and help reduce inflammation. So you want to replace the condiment. Instead of using condiments to make your food, season your food, you want to use herbs and spices to season your food. So there's your substitution list. And then another thing is, this is not necessarily a food that you eat, but this is a habit. So instead of indulging in your cravings, right? When you crave something, a lot of time people reach for something. They just like, I gotta eat something. Remember, a lot of this eating is emotional eating. You're eating because you're stressed. You're eating because you're bored. You're eating because you're depressed. And you use food as a drug to help you feel better because food is powerful, especially these food that are processed with sugar, trans fat. They're powerful drugs, basically, that makes you feel good temporarily. And so instead of indulging in cravings, what you actually want to do that's actually very healthy for your brain is actually to fast. It's like, wait a minute. I already told you that I'm hungry and I want to eat. Now remember, craving is different than hunger, right? When you're hungry, it's because you haven't eaten in a long time, so you have hunger pains. Now keep in mind that human beings, we are trained to go hungry, right? For eons of time, since the beginning of time, human beings, it's always a pattern of feast and famine, right? There's times that there's plenty full of food. You kill something, you caught an animal, you have a lot of food. And there's periods during wintertime where food is very scarce, so your body will store up in the times where there's an abundance with body fat. That's your food and storage. And when there's no food, then your body will burn up the body fat and release it as energy. So fasting is basically what our body is built for. Fasting does not equal low-calorie diet. People think fasting is the same as low-calorie. Not necessarily so. Obviously, on the day that you fast, if you did a 24-hour fast, that particular day has very low calorie, no calorie if you didn't eat anything. But usually what we say when we say fast, we're talking about intermittent fast, or we might do occasionally a 24-hour fast. Depends on the situation, depends on the client, what the needs are. And when you fast, what you're doing is you're basically getting in touch with why you're eating in the first place. Number one, that's an emotional reason, and that helps you get into your brain of why you're eating in the first place. A lot of time you don't really need to eat, you just want to, and that causes problems because then you're just reaching for anything that you're craving for. Number two thing is when you fast, is that when you fast, you produce ketones. In ketones, remember this topic, we're talking about foods that heal brain. Ketone is a superfood for your brain. So when you're fasting, your body burns fat for energy because there's absence of any food. So your body goes into storage and burns fat for energy. The result of fat burning is ketone. And ketone is basically food for your brain. So remember, glucose is the preferred source of fuel for the brain. Glucose. However, ketone is like the other glucose. It's the other fuel for the brain. And in fact, it's actually superfood. It's like turbocharged fuel for the brain. So when your body starts going into a fasting state, and if you're able to do it, because some people can't fast because they're hormonally just can't do it, right? Your adrenal gland's shot, you have adrenal fatigue, you have the hypoglycemic tendencies, you just can't do it. Some people can't do it, and that's a sign that you're not very healthy. If you can't fast, if you just fall apart when you fast, that means your hormones and your adrenals and your system is not healthy enough to handle that fast. That's one marker that I look at to tell me whether a person has started to get better. Can they handle the fast? So fasting can help with brain function due to the production of ketones. So instead of indulging, just let it go. You might want to actually plan the fast, where you actually plan in days where you do that. Okay, so we're going to have upcoming videos. We're going to talk about this in detail, how to actually do that. The next thing is stress. Again, this is not a food you eat, it's more of a habit, I guess. So if you're stressed, your body's going to release cortisol, and cortisol is one of those things that really damages the brain. So instead of stress, what you want to do is you want to do meditation and or breathing exercise. Now this may sound really simple. It's like, oh, I heard that all before. But you know, meditation has been studying for like 40, 50 years, right? By all the major university studies. So we know very well what meditation does. But for a while it's kind of got out of style because people started looking at, you know, oh, what can I take? Supplement, food, you know, different hacks you can do for the brain. But now what happens with functional MRI and more advanced brain imaging, what we're finding is that meditation actually does a lot more good than we initially thought. And now they actually have, you know, actual scientific study that tell us exactly what part of the brain is impacted, how that actually works. So now meditation is actually coming back in vogue because so many scientists and neuroscientists and doctors talking about the benefit of meditation because we have more grounded science in why it works. Okay, so meditation is just flat out works, and so does breathing. So if you do nothing, simply just breathe, right? So when we're in stress state, we typically shallow breathe. We hasten our breathing. So if you just slow down the breathing, and you breathe in 4 seconds, and you exhale, taking at least twice as long, maybe 7 to 8 second exhale, preferably through your nose only, not through the mouth. So you go, and you breathe out through your nose. Maybe taking 7 to 8 seconds, twice as long as the inhale. That already will shift your nervous system into a state where it's just like, oh, I'm not stressed, because you cannot be stressed and breathe that way. It doesn't work together. So you're basically tricking your brain into thinking like, hey, everything's going to be okay. So deep breathing actually absolutely works. So does meditation. When you meditate, all you got to do is just focus on the fact that you're meditating. So people think like, oh, it's blocking out all thought. You can't block out all thought. What you do is you just focus on whatever is coming to you, and you just let it go. It's more of an unattachment. Okay. So Joyce has a question: how long do you have to not eat for it to be a fast? Typically, we have clients do a 18-hour fast. So you basically skip breakfast. You eat between a 6-hour window. That's what's commonly done. However, you can make it even longer or shorter for some people, but typically 18 hours is what's ideal. All right, so last one is if you're sedentary. That's also very bad for your brain because your brain works on movement. We are, as a human being, as an organism, are made to move. We are made to move, right? If you have an amoeba or a bacteria, they all move. They move toward food, move away from danger. You have an animal, they move toward food, they move away from danger. As human beings, we have muscles and joints because God put us on this planet to move, right? We were initially designed to live undomesticated in the wild, foraging and finding and hunting food. That's what we're made to do. So if you just sit around all day, which is a modern man disease, then you're going to create a lot of neurodegeneration. One of the most important input into your brain is actually physical activity. People think like, oh, if I keep my brain active by playing chess and Sudoku, that's going to do good for my brain, right? Actually, that helps, but what's even more important than playing chess and Sudoku is actually physical activity, because that stimulates the brain by the way of proprioception. Proprioception is basically joint position sense. And for your brain to sense your joints are moving through physical activity, it is one of the most powerful ways that you can stimulate the brain. So instead of being sedentary, which is very damaging to the brain, you want to do exercise. Now, it's not just any old exercise, because there are many different things that people call exercise. People say, oh, I did gardening. Well, gardening is activity, it's not exercise. You say, oh, I went shopping for 3 hours. Well, unless it's Black Friday and you're rushing in the store, running through the store and beating people up to try to get to that TV that's half off, you're not really exercising. It's just activity. Exercise means that you're stressing your body in a certain way so that it has to adapt to that particular activity. So one of the best forms of exercise is actually weight training. People say, weight training, what does that do for my brain? Well, if you do it correctly, it can do a lot for your brain due to the different type of hormone that's released, such as growth hormone, due to the impact it has on insulin. And the other form of training will be high-intensity interval training. Because when you do interval training, your heart rate goes up rapidly to usually a pretty fast pace. And what that does, when you do high-intensity exercise where your heart rate is going really fast, you actually release a compound called BDNF, brain-derived neurotrophic factor. And this chemical produced in your brain can be produced by fasting as well as high-intensity interval training, as well as certain food like blueberry, can stimulate the production of this chemical, which actually helps your brain make more synapses. Remember, synapses is how your brain are able to lay down pathway, communicate with each other. And remember earlier I said that it's not the number of brain cells, it's how many pathways you have. Because baby have the most numerous brain cells, but they're not as functional as people who are an adult because they have all these brain cells, but nothing's communicating with each other. So you want to be able to lay down synapses. And BDNF is a chemical in your brain that's produced naturally through fasting, through high-intensity interval training, through eating certain food that can actually help you make more synapses, therefore help with brain function. Okay? So there you have it. 7 things that you can do that's damaging to you, like eating sugar, bad fats, white foods or processed carbs, condiments, which has a lot of sauces and gluten and different things hiding in it, indulging in cravings, stress, and being sedentary, all damaging to the brain. So there are simple hacks, and I give them to you. So things that you can do instead of eating sugary stuff, you want to eat more vegetables. Now remember, the vegetable can be starchy veggie like sweet potatoes and yams, squash and zucchini. These things are your starchy substitutions, but there are vegetables that have a lot of fiber content that will help you with antioxidants as well. Good fat instead of trans fat. So coconut oil, olive oil, nuts and seeds, avocado, even animal meat, and even eggs, as long as they're grass-fed free ranging. And then your white food, substitute for dark fruits and vegetables to get the antioxidants. Instead of condiments, use herbs and spices. Instead of indulging, do fasting or intermittent fasting. Instead of stress, meditate. Meditate, or just have an attitude of gratitude. Be grateful for what you have, and then do deep breathing exercise. And then with the activity, do high-intensity interval training. And it doesn't have to be very long. If you're very out of shape at this point, you may have to start with lower activity, just aerobic exercise, and build up to a certain level so you can do high intensity. And that's what we help with our clients. We test their adrenal gland to make sure to see where they are, to see if they can even handle some of these higher intensity activities. But once you're able to do it, you can start with high intensity, just doing 5-second spurts, 10-second spurts. So it doesn't have to be a 30-second or a minute spurt. You can just sprint in place for 5 seconds, or jumping jack for 5 seconds very vigorously, and then take a break for, say, 20 seconds. And then do it again for 5 to 10 seconds, and then take a break for 20 seconds. So this can be done if you're out walking. You can just jog or run for 5 seconds, which is not very long, and then walk for like 20 to 30 seconds. That could be high intensity exercise in itself. So it doesn't have to be a very long drawn out thing. So the key is to start somewhere, right? You build up habits and rituals that you do something every day to give you a small victory, and then small victories add up to big victories. So start with these small victories that you can do. Maybe you don't do all 7, maybe you do 1, but every week add another thing. Then what happens 7 weeks later, your life has changed because you build up these habits where you're doing all 7 of them. Okay, so hopefully this helps you. Now, if you'd like more information, please go to our website at askdrkhan.com. There's different places that you can visit, the blog to watch more videos. And also, I have a gift for you. You can go to askdrkhan.com /roadmaps? Roadmaps. askdrkhan.com/roadmap. If you put your email in that link, we're going to send you some report that'll help you, the free report, that'll help you to kind of identify the roadmap. What are the things that you can do to help you get on the road to getting better? Okay. This week we have tomorrow, Tuesday at 5:30, we have the autoimmune workshop. This is an in-office workshop. If you haven't been to my workshop, you want to come because we give you information like this that's going to help you solve your health puzzle. If you have MS, rheumatoid arthritis, Hashimoto's, diabetes, neuropathy, any of these chronic conditions that may be autoimmune in nature, the workshop is what you want to come to. It's no cost to you. You're going to get much more value than what you pay, which is free. We also have a Thyroid Workshop next week, Thyroid Solutions Workshop next week at 5:30. You can register for these by calling 480-988-6269 or visiting askdrkhan.com/thyroid for the Thyroid Workshop or azautoimmunedoctor.com for the autoimmune workshop. I'll put all these links on the Facebook post. Also, just so you know, we're going to be at the East Valley Health Expo. It's been a while since I've done any health fair or health expo, so I'm actually really excited about it. So this is in Mesa, I believe. East Valley Health and Wellness Expo, and this is going to be the first weekend, the first Saturday of November. So we're going to be there, so tell your friends about it. I'll put a link on that on our post as well, so you can get information on it. It's going to be a lot of people giving information on health products, wellness products, information and services, and I'm be actually speaking there as well, so you don't want to miss it. Okay, share that with people. If you like this video, please thumbs up. Give me some thumbs up so I know you like this content. Awesome. And please like and share our page and like and share this video with your friends and family. Our goal is to help as many people as possible with information that actually works, but that's true and that's right, because there's a lot of information that's being pushed out there that's simply just not correct. So we want to be your trusted advisor, be your trusted source of information. You can be sure that we're going to continue to deliver week in and week out. So thank you for watching, and we'll see you next week at the Ask Dr. Khan Show.